how do you handle a chutzpahdik child? And this is in front of 2,000 plus mechanchim in America, where he said, without equivocation, he said, Ein davar shenikra chutzpah. There is no such thing as chutzpah.
When you are in yeshiva, you are acquiring a skill for life that you will always need, and that is writing and being creative and being analytical and coming up with ideas. And therefore, ChatGPT and AI is terrible. Welcome to the Learning Curve podcast, brought to you by Mishpacha magazine.
We are raising children in a changing and challenging world.
So let's tackle the important issues facing frum families today.
I'm Rabbi Garfield, Manal of Yeshiva Torah's MS in Houston, and I love talking about chinuch.
I'm Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, Menahel Yeshiva Katana of Manhattan and director of Camp Aish. I also love talking chinuch and sometimes fishing.
Join us as we answer your questions and discuss the topics that matter to parents the most.
Baruchim Abayim, and welcome back to Season 2 of The Learning Curve, a podcast that deals with important issues in the chinuch world, matters that matter to us. I'm Ari Schonfeld, joined as always by Rabbi Garfield. Shalom Aleichem, how are you?
Wonderful. It is great to be back, and it's great to be able to talk to you again about chinuch. Between the time we finished recording and now, I'm sure this happened to you too. So often it was like, oh, that's a great learning curve topic or discussion, or people would like say to me at shul or something, oh yeah. So it's great to be back together so we could do the learning curve the way it should be. That's on air with all of our many listeners, so we can really engage everybody instead of just the side conversations.
Yes, and as happened to me a few times, I'm sure to you, when dealing with the parent, I'll be like, this is not going to be on. And I'll say, if it will, I'll change your name to Sprinza. So if you hear a Sprinza today, you know who we're talking about. But no, Baruch Hashem, we both, our day job, if you will, I don't call it a job. I think a job is a little bit...
It's more than a job.
It's much more than a job. It's a skos for both of us to be Menalim in Houston, in New York. So we have the out-of-town flavor, the in-town flavor. I don't know, I live in Passaic, so I'm not sure how in-town that is called. But Baruch Hashem, we've had life's experiences and experiences in yeshiva, and we hope to share that in a meaningful way with our listeners. We ask everyone to send in questions that they have. What's the email again, Rabbi?
Well, the email is thelearningcurve@mishpacha.com.
Thelearningcurve@mishpacha.com. We thank Mishpacha for helping making this possible. And let's go. Let's get started.
I'm going to ask you a question to jump right in. So here we go. My 6th grade son has a book report due. He sat down at the computer and 10 minutes later said he's done. ChatGPT. He was so proud of his cop. When I told him it's for sure against the yeshiva policy, he said, first of all, no one ever said anything to us, so don't make up policies. Secondly, if it's cheating, how come Abba, you use it all the time to write emails for work?
Okay. So first of all, I don't use ChatGPT for work. I find ChatGPT to be insulting to someone that
You don't use it at all in work? Like not at all?
So this question wasn't written by me or my wife. I love the challenge of writing, and I like to be creative myself, but fine. Wow. So this is obviously a new shaila, something that in terms of school policy, I think schools are probably reacting to this, and yeshivas are reacting to this as we go. 5 years ago, there was no need for such a policy because no one knew what that was. My yeshiva had to create a new policy because we had a similar episode like this. So I'll actually tell you what happened in our yeshiva. It wasn't Sprinza, but something happened along these lines where it became clear that a boy used ChatGPT. And we had no rule in yeshiva against it. So we then changed the rule. So in terms of yeshiva having a policy, that's yeshiva's achrayus to be up to date. And if there's something that's important, then make that a school policy. Now, in terms of the actual very legitimate question from a 10-year-old, and that is, hey, if it's dangerous and illegal and cheating, so then how can you use it or everyone else uses it? So I got asked this question by all the boys in Yeshiva Katana Manhattan when we made this policy. They all know about ChatGPT.
What's the policy? You didn't say.
You're not allowed to use ChatGPT or any AI device when doing work for school.
Okay.
It's not vague. It's pretty open-ended and pretty straight. And I told them the following. This is the mashal. Try to explain it in a way that a 10-year-old can understand it. And this is what I told them. I said, 8th graders take math tests and regents. Are they allowed to use calculators? And the answer is yes. Not only are they allowed to, we encourage it because they're doing such complex work. I don't want them to spend time doing multiplication. So they're allowed to use calculators. A first grader or a second grader who uses a calculator on a test is cheating and gets a 0. What's the difference? And I posed this question to our 5th and 6th graders. And I explained to them that the first and second graders are learning how to do math. So if they use a calculator, they are ruining their ability to learn that skill. An 8th grader that has already learned that skill, so is just using a calculator to help things go quicker, if that's not what the focus of the test is. The focus of the test is graphs and algebra and, and fractions and all of those things. So therefore, a calculator for him is not cheating because he has already conquered and acquired that skill. I said, when you are in yeshiva, you are acquiring a skill for life that you will always need. And that is writing and being creative and being analytical and coming up with ideas. And therefore, ChatGPT and AI is terrible because it will take away your ability to think for yourself and to be creative. Now, later on in life, do people misuse it? Of course. But later on in life, when you're just sending an email or you just need to get things done and you use it as a small little crutch, that's a totally separate conversation. But no, it's not a contradiction that your father uses email, AI, and ChatGPT. And in yeshiva, if we catch you using ChatGPT in a report, we fail you. And I said that to a group of boys in a few different grades, and I didn't get any pushback. I'm not saying that they're not coming up with different ways to try to use ChatGPT, but it was something that was able to be understood and resonate with an elementary school kid. That's my belief, and I think it's sound.
So I'd like to ask you, I'd like to push back a little.
Yes.
I'm not saying that I fundamentally disagree with it. I certainly understand where you're coming from, and I have a lot to say about ChatGPT. But my only question for you is, how do you make a rule that you really have no way to enforce?
So the answer is, first of all, to the discerning eye, you can see it. If a kid there is ways to, in a way, find out. Second of all, you're right. You really can't enforce it because I know you could put into ChatGPT, make me not get caught.
Yeah.
I know. I think
Right, like a 4th grader or whatever.
Right, but I think the idea is that you can never stop kids from cheating, right? Of course not.
So why
You're
make a
trying to-
rule? Why don't you just explain it without the rule part? The rule part is what gets me. When we make rules that we know we can't enforce, we're belittling the entire enterprise of rules.
Because I think for 90% of kids, they will abide by a rule. And if it's not a rule, if it's just a mussar shmooze, a 3rd and 4th grader who are black and white thinkers, well, don't care about mussar schmoozing. But this is not an enforceable rule in a real way. But I think for 90 to 95% of kids, if you make a rule and explain the rule and it's sound and it's reasonable, they won't break it. And for the 5 to 10% that will break it, they're breaking no matter what you tell them. They're the challenging kid that maybe we'll deal with later on in this episode.
Can you think of another example of a rule you have that kids could break and you have no way to enforce it really?
A rule that we have that kids can break.
I just don't think that's something we do. I think we try to avoid those.
Yeah, but this also is when they're young enough, this is something that their parents can be involved in. This is not high school where the kids have their own computer, perhaps. These are kids that their parents, they're not getting onto ChatGPT usually without their parents helping. There's usually, I think if it's a school policy, then that's something that will be understood and therefore respected. I don't have offhand another rule that we do that's not fully enforceable, but I do think there are ways to.
Do you have a rule when it comes to reading a novel that you're not allowed to use Spark Notes? I don't know what they use today, Cliff Notes or whatever, the condensed version, and answer all the questions on the test and totally.
No, I wouldn't
get
make
away
that
with it
a rule.
without
No, I
using
wouldn't
that.
make that as a rule.
Why not?
You're right, because of what you just said. Because to me, that's not as fundamentally not using your own kishrun as ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a total deviation
Right.
from what we're trying to do in yeshiva.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that. When you were giving the explanation you gave to your students, which I think is excellent, like you said, the 2nd grader using a calculator really undermines the goal of learning multiplication, right?
Correct.
Totally, like guts it. And so I definitely hear that difference. Using Cliff Notes from reading a novel doesn't gut your reading. You're reading something condensed, but not as destructive. I do want to share one thought about ChatGPT because I did put a lot of thought into this. As you recall, a few years ago when it was just new, I put out a little notebook, I guess, a booklet of all the ways principals could use ChatGPT, and I gave it out to a bunch of principals, and it really started the conversation. And sort of a funny thing happened. There was like a counter to it, and there were some articles written that were against ChatGPT, and I was really curious about it. So I actually called Torah Masorah to help me understand their policy, and they said they're still
Mhm.
discussing it. Why don't I come to the Rosh Hashiva's meeting in the summer and represent the value of ChatGPT
Ooh la
and
la.
go up against the guy who's against ChatGPT so the Gedolim could have a proper discussion?
Okay. Wow. Okay. And what happened?
Right,
You went?
right.
You went?
So, no, I'm not that dumb, Rabbi Schonfeld. I'm not
Why?
going because a few reasons. Well, why I'm not that dumb, I don't know. That we'll leave for our listeners. But why I didn't do it is, first of all, what I did actually do was I said, okay, I want to know who the guy is who I'm going up against, and I want to call him and I want to understand his position because I was really having a hard time understanding the anti ChatGPT position. And, before I would fully go in front of
What
him
does that
like that,
mean? I know that. What does that mean? Anti-chat
don't
GPT
use chat. They
position.
brought a Kol Koreh. I'm sure seen it.
Oh, that one. Yes.
There was
Yes.
a whole
Yes.
Kol Koreh against
Yes.
ChatGPT, signed by Rabbanim and everything. There was
Yes.
an article in the Esteem
Mhm.
magazine that we're involved with Mishpacha. There was actually two that I've seen, but at this time it was only the one. And I'm sure he'd be happy for me to say his name. Rabbi Gottlieb, Nechemia Gottlieb, is
Right.
the head of TAG, and he was the one who wrote that article. And Torah Masorah actually sent out the article saying, read this. So I called Torah Masorah and I said, help me understand it. And they said, that's how this whole thing started. So I
Okay.
called Rabbi Gottlieb and I spoke to him for an hour. And I
Wow.
really delved deep to understand where he was coming from. And I think it would be beneficial for me to share that. Not that we're disagreeing, but you have to understand where those who oppose it come from. And what he explained to me, which I think is totally valid, is for communities that are highly sheltered, which might not be, your community
Mhm.
or my community. I'm talking
Right.
about families that might not even get from media in their house because they're, scared of the from
They
media.
don't get from media. I'm not sure how they're listening to this podcast, but okay, continue.
Well, you have to, maybe the adults are, but they don't let their kids,
Okay.
be exposed to from media. So ChatGPT does open the ability to write anything really, even
Mhm.
though it is highly filtered. And often it'll say like, we can't discuss that. And I know they're very careful with that. They're very much self-policing because they don't want to get into a situation of being policed. So a lot of stuff is blocked, but forget like high level schmutz and high level, kfira and stuff like that. But just exposure to the world, top 10 movies, give me a synopsis of sports, give me anything like that. They're
But
very
that's
scared.
Google. But that's the same thing as
It's
having.
more, it's more, it's more than Google. And this is what he said. This is what he said. Parents know about Google. He felt we were successful in telling parents to block their kids' Google.
Uh-huh.
But
Which is right.
chat, and then they can make a choice, But ChatGPT has this call-in feature, apparently, that you could from a flip phone, you could
Yep.
even call and have a conversation with
Right.
this bot and get access
And
to all sorts of stuff. So that was
right.
one reason that he found it objectionable. He also said a lot of information looks accurate when in reality it may or may not
Right.
be, and kids don't know how to discern.
I have a relative who's one of the Rabbanim that spoke on behalf of Rabbi Gottlieb. Gave a big Mussar shmooze about the dangers of AI and ChatGPT, that you can create a relationship with a bot.
Right.
Right.
That
Right.
was part of it. It seemed a little bit of a stretch, that part.
Right.
But
Right.
like for a community, and you know what? I agree with him. For a community that is that sheltered, it's true. And he's trying to
Right.
tell people this is an avenue of exposure that you have to understand. I
Right.
don't think, that's not for us necessarily.
Yeah, that's
but-
not that the shaila here wasn't the hashkafic concern of ChatGPT as a whole. It
Right.
was using, cheating kind of using,
Right,
is ChatGPT cheating?
Right.
Right. That was what we
Right.
were dealing with. But you're right. In terms of whether ChatGPT, that goes into the much bigger discussion, and that is, which hopefully we'll get to in this season, about technology and exposure and
Right.
right. So that
Right.
chilek maybe
I just thought that was an interesting little side
yes.
thing
And
about
you didn't go to
ChatGPT.
that meeting. Disappointing, Rabbi
I
Garfield.
did not go. I
Ah.
didn't think I wanted to be that guy
Uh-huh.
who is representing,
You thrive being that guy.
not at a meeting like that. That's a little
Uh-huh.
too much.
Okay.
I mean, I'd have to be something. First of all, I'm not exceptionally passionate about this topic. I don't want to be like the ChatGPT guy.
Right.
I have to say that I do use it in a lot of creative ways, and it has a tremendous potential. And now they have educational stuff, all sorts of ways of
Right.
making tests and worksheets and Q&A and multiple choice. I mean, it just
Right.
has a lot of capacity that, if used correctly, I think has
Right.
great potential for us.
Okay. That was a long first short question.
Yeah,
So
well, it's
here's
an
question
important
2,
topic.
Rabbi
Yeah.
Garfield, for you. My daughter works very hard in school. but is not a very strong student. The school announced that they're having a school-wide spelling bee. Each grade has a list to memorize, and they will all compete on one day in front of the whole school. She is so worried about doing well and studying away, but I know this is not an area of strength for her. Should I encourage her to study? And is this something that our schools should be doing? What did my daughter just have recently? Geography B, Brachas B, right? All of the B's. Is that a healthy thing? What should this mother who has a student that this isn't her strength tell her?
So anyone who knows me who's worked in my school is smiling because they know that this is something that is going to trigger me. So get ready.
Warning.
But I recognize that it's like my orientation, my background, my educational experience. So I'm not claiming to own this topic. However, I think that all these spelling bees, they celebrate a very specific and mostly inborn skill. It's not something you could really develop, and either you have a great memory for these kind of abstract things, such as what the bracha is for, I don't know, whatever. I don't even know what do they call it? Buxer, right?
Yes.
Or how to spell whatever word that
Montessori.
Yeah, I can't even come up with the words, let alone spell it. So I think that you're basically reinforcing something that is reinforced every day in school already, which is some kids are naturally stronger than others in certain academic areas. So basically all you're doing is finding something that the kids who are already exceptional in, mostly. It's rare that a kid, unless he's some kind of idiot savant, that he's going to only be good at spelling but not do great in school. Generally, and this is my experience growing up, the kids who win the spelling bee and the brachas bee are the kids who get 100 every day anyway. So do they really need that kind of public reinforcement at the expense of everyone else? Like, really? They need that? And all the other kids just feel like losers, and especially those who are embarrassed. And in this case, it seems like it's somewhat public. So I don't see the educational value in it. Now, that's as a principal. As a parent, I think and I look forward to you possibly disagreeing, and I'm very open to that. As a parent, I think that if I was in a position where my kid was challenged like this, I would have to make a decision if it's within their capacity. If not, I might plan a trip for that day and take them out of school so they don't have to deal with it, because I do think it's a heavy burden on a kid, but I wouldn't push a kid to study when we know they're going to fail. I think that's like going to be a hard message for them to deal with and like unnecessary roughness. What do you think, Rabbi Schonfeld?
So in terms of a school, everything, of course, starts with what age, right? You're not going to introduce competition in first grade, second grade.
What grade is the question? Does it say? Doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
What grade? I was thinking it's like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th.
So so I have a 4th grade daughter that has all these B's coming up. I have to disagree with you, by the way, in terms of the long term. My wife still sings she knows all the Nevi'im because they memorized the Nevi'im.
I have no problem with memorizing the Nevi'im. Just don't celebrate Ruvain and inexpensive Shimon. Everyone should sing Nevi'im all day.
So this is a way of reinforcing the Az Yashir competition, and there's a lot.
You're telling me your wife wouldn't know it if they just sung it together? And they didn't say you're better than Yenim? Sing it together. Act it out. Do memory games with it. Play a game. Just don't get up on a stage and say, whoa, Mrs. Schonfeld, you're so smart. She knows she's smart. You know why? Because she was smart yesterday and the day before.
So it happens to be my experience in my yeshiva is not so. That the kids...
Oh, it's getting personal.
No, meaning the kids that win the B's and the Esclalius B are not necessarily the kids that are getting hundreds. There are kids that, as you said, have a certain innate take towards whether it's memorization or these type of competitions. So it's not always that the Aleph Plus kid is winning, but it's definitely the majority of the time.
This is an example where people could fact check that. I don't think that's actually accurate. There could be a kid here and there. But I think in general, the kids who win B's are the top 10% of your classes.
So
and you could fact check that. Take that to the bank.
So we shouldn't have leagues. So we shouldn't have leagues because
you're asking a different question.
No,
because you're feeling pressure on the spelling. So you're pivoting to leagues. But the difference between
your language.
spelling and leagues.
No, what I mean is,
I'll tell you the difference.
Well, let me explain.
Okay.
I think that fundamentally having a competition in school and having winners and non-winners is okay for kids to see in any way, whether it's a contest and whether it's in sports, whether it's in academics. I think we should not be afraid to, we give awards at graduation in my school for Limudei Kodesh Award in Excellence and Limudei Chol Award in Excellence. We also have a character award and a Simchat Chaim award. So we celebrate different avenues. But I think it's okay to celebrate success. I don't think we should be afraid of having
Only if
kids
it's a
stand
fair
out.
playing field, an even playing field.
This is an
You
even
can't have
playing
a
field.
competition that everyone has to be in when some kids, their legs are tied and some kids are not.
So then you shouldn't play sports.
Oh,
So
no,
then
you asked
shouldn't,
about sports. You didn't let me respond yet.
you shouldn't have a choir in school.
You didn't let me respond. I'm happy to respond. Let's respond to sports. First of all, those things, generally, not everyone has to do it. Meaning, generally, the kids who participate are the kids who want to. And the kids who don't, if you're a good school like yours, you'll have multiple things. And
Right.
Ruben will be in the chess club and Shimon will be in the thing. And this is a school-wide spelling bee that everyone has to sit there and watch and celebrate little Heshi who does so well. So that's first of all. Second of all, my point is that spelling bees accentuate a skill that they're being celebrated in every day in class. And a sports is an opportunity, or a choir is an opportunity to accentuate a skill that may or may not have anything to do with success in class. In fact, it could be argued, and I'm not willing to take the same statistical confidence that I have in the spelling bee winners being in the top 10%, which I'll take you on, Ari, so please fact check me on that. But I would argue that the choir singers and the basketball players are more of a bell curve, and they're not necessarily the top. So they have that value too. So there's two differences between choir and basketball and the spelling bee. Difference number one is it's a different skill, and that is not reinforced. Write it down. Number one, it's not reinforced every day in other ways in the school. And number two is you do not have to be on the basketball team. You do not have to be on the choir. But if your school offers different things, you could find something that works for you.
Of course. My main point is that I think it's okay for the kids that are stars in the classroom to be recognized.
They are every day.
And I think it's okay to try to incentivize and push kids who might not win, but now, like the kids might not win because first they have a little bit of anxiety or they get nervous on stage, all the different reasons. But at the end of the day, I do trivia whenever we go on a big yeshiva trip. I do trivia on the bus. And when I ask, what is the capital of Maine? I now know it's Augusta, not because I memorized as a kid.
That. I'm pro teaching that.
It's not teaching, but it's not. It doesn't come from just teaching. There's an extra layer because when you have a B and you have a contest, there's an extra layer of competition.
Oh, because they get to do it in front of the weaker kid. Oh, so you're saying the stronger kids get to prov in front of the weaker kids so they feel good. So that's why.
So I don't believe in having a B that no one can relate to. But if the kid makes it through 4 rounds, 6 rounds, I think there's success in that.
Find another way. I could give you 10 other ways you could do it.
I think it's a total. Let's put it this way. I haven't seen negative consequences of kids who didn't do well in a B and didn't do well in a Dias Claudius B and a geography B and suffered because of that. I think the positive outweighs the negative. So you don't have spelling bees, right? You have none of that in your school.
No B's.
No B's.
And no awards at graduation either.
Really? So I, by the way, I'm sensitive, and therefore we give a few awards.
Oh, that's so nice. So you give the most improved player award. Oh, that must
most
make
potential.
Those children feel
the most potential award, right?
Oh,
give it the
yes.
most potential award.
What a wonderful principal. I'm sure I would have loved getting that award.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay to celebrate kids that excel in different
You
areas.
You should.
And
you give an award to every kid. We speak about every kid.
I think kids recognize that, and it's our Christ as a yeshiva to be able to celebrate all of our Talmidim in different ways.
I agree. I agree. So if you tell me you equally celebrate everyone at graduation and everyone gets an award of meaning, great.
So we do. So we do.
Okay,
meaning,
that's fine.
I speak now. We don't have 150 kids in our yeshiva, so every single kid at the graduation gets an award.
That's wonderful. So then I have no problem. My point is,
but one of them gets award that is obviously quote unquote bigger than the rest because it's.
If it's not a Nebby award, that's different. If every kid gets an award and one kid gets an academic award and one kid gets a Midos award and one kid gets a hard work award and whatever, that's fine with me. Totally fine. But don't give me this one kid gets some kind of gold goblet after spending 8 years of being the top of his class. Every time a test is given out, he sits there and smiles. And I don't have a problem with these kids. Don't get me wrong. They're wonderful too. They're wonderful kids. And they deserve to be mechuzek, and we should individually strengthen them and give them challenges. And we should give them personal spelling bees like, I'm going to test you and I'm going to give you a pizza card. But there's no reason.
I think it's okay for us to show the value of academic excellence
Mm,
and be proud of that and to
yes.
present that and to celebrate
Yeah.
it. We all grew up with kids in our class that were the metzuyanim, and some of them are yeshivos today, and some of them are big, successful hedge fund, whatever they're doing
Well, that's
today.
another Shaila. We didn't get into that. Does seventh grade success in school measure anything to a 35-year-old in any metric? I'm just saying, I'm not sure that, the success in seventh grade
I
academics.
think we celebrate excellence, and I think that's okay. And we have to find things that everyone is excellent in, and we have to celebrate each kid, and that's the akrais of the yeshiva.
I
Maybe
agree.
that's a little
I
easier.
agree. That I agree.
Okay.
But the
So,
spelling bee definition doesn't do that.
all
Wow,
right.
we really got into this. We're jumping. Obviously, we needed to have an episode because there's a lot.
we
in
obviously
there.
we have to do this more often. We're making up for lost time.
So now we're going to go on to the next topic. As hard as it is to leave those two first small questions that somehow got a little big, we're going to go on to the third topic. I'm going to tell you the question, discuss
The
it a little bit.
spotlight question.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
the spotlight question. And then I am going to bring in our great guest. So here we go. My third grade son is struggling. He was recently suspended for being chutzpahdik in class with his Rebbe. I want to help him understand that this is not an acceptable way to speak to a Rebbe, but I also do not want to just punish him because that often seems to backfire. How do I get the message across? This is a very serious issue, but at the same time, maintain a good relationship. And I'm going to add, upon which I could influence him in a larger way.
So I know who we're bringing on as a guest, right? Rabbi Moshe Grylak. I'll let you do the introduction piece. A very special person that I've gained a lot from recently and the reason why I invoke Rabbi Simcha's name is because I would have answered this question much differently 3 years ago than I would
When you
today.
were young and naive.
When I was, Rabbi Arieli once gave a shmooze in yeshiva and he said, "Nara yisi v'gam lo zakanti." Right.
Wow.
So, but I think chutzpah is like a flashpoint topic because growing up and the assumption in chinuch is that chutzpah is not to be tolerated. It's to be dealt with in severe and extreme and consequential. I'm not talking about hitting, but I'm punishing and just zero tolerance. Boy who's chutzpahdik means there's something wrong with his midos and it has to be suspensions and apologies, and you're clear with that with him. It's like the little kid that walks into the street. You have to teach the kid not to walk on the street, so that's when you hit the little 2-year-old, or you make sure that this is zero tolerance, period.
Right.
And I have learned through trial and error and through reading and exploring this topic that just in the world of chutzpah, but really in all midos. I have a friend of mine whose name is Rabbi Garfield, who once gave me a present that's on my desk in yeshiva, and you'll finish this, and that is that children are, how does it go?
Children are good. They want to do good.
They all want to do good. And if they don't do good, there's a reason for that. And it's our achrayus as the educators and adults.
Identify and address.
Right. And that is, I think if you view chutzpah that way, the child that is being chutzpahdik is not being chutzpahdik because he's nasty and he wants to be mean-spirited and he just doesn't like Torah Sinai and a Rebbe represents Torah. So like he's a 9-year-old. If he's being chutzpahdik, there's usually a reason for it. And it's our achrayus to explore that reason and to find out which part of his personality is causing that and to delve deeper. To me, the aleph point, the basic is to delve deeper.
You're reminding me of one of the most iconic moments in Torah U'Masorah convention history.
Ooh, wow.
Yes, it was a good 15 plus years ago. Rav Steinman, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, came to the Torah U'Masorah convention. I imagine you weren't yet in chinuch even. Possibly.
No, I was not.
Okay. Anyway, it was unbelievable. It was at the Friar Tuck, so it was a long time ago. And it was amazing. It was Thursday night. We were all in there. Anyone who could come to the convention possibly was there. There was Hasidim outside were protesting because he had taken a position, I think, on Macro Clarity at the time, and there were state troopers around. It was like, wow. It was amazing. It was just amazing. And
for you, but like for you, what could be more exciting?
Yeah, I was, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I loved it. I loved it. So there were two things that came from that. I'm going to share one at this time, and maybe another time I'll share the other one because it's not relevant to this. But he said a lot of things. You could probably get the recording. But one of the questions was about chutzpah. How do you handle a chutzpahdik child? And this is in front of 2,000 plus mechanchim in America, where he said, without equivocation, he said, Ein davar shenikra chutzpah. There is no such thing as chutzpah. And the
There's
whole point,
Chazal.
like,
There's Chazal.
I don't, well, you're asking a kasha on the Gadol Adar. You'll have to bring it up with him. But this is what he said, okay? And the whole place, like, there wasn't a gasp, but there was like a sort of gasp. And he said the point that you were making, that children who are reacting to something, they're not trying to be chutzpahdik. And you need to react to the something, not to the chutzpah. He said this b'fnei am ve'eda, and he said that in the mind of mechanchim in America. I hope it's still in our minds. It was a long time ago.
Wow.
But it was a powerful moment that still is resonating.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it definitely is something that...
Yeah, so I think I want to explore this further, because dealing with this struggling child,
Right.
this chutzpah kid, the kid who misbehaves, how do we try to get him back before it's
Right,
too
because
late?
we've given them the context of almost like what not to do, right?
Right.
Don't attack him, kill him, accuse him,
Right.
beat him,
Right.
whatever. Okay, but that
Right.
didn't help the kid. We just haven't hurt him at this point.
Right.
So that's why we're excited to welcome Rabbi Stein. Let me introduce him a little bit, and then we'll bring him on. So Rabbi Stein is a prime Talmud of someone named Rabbi Shlomo Hoffman, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Rabbi Hoffman, and maybe we'll ask Rabbi Stein to tell us a little more about him, but Rabbi Hoffman was a sort of a psychologist. I don't know if he was formally trained, although
I don't
he had
think he
some
was. I don't think he was.
exposure. He definitely was well read in these areas. But Rabbi Hoffman worked in the prison system, and he honed the skill to be able to talk to people who really seem to be dysfunctional, angry, disconnected.
Right.
And through that, through like his development of how to deal with those people, he realized, or he came to understand, a much greater Yesod and Yesodis that then he discussed with the Gedolei Yisrael at the time. And he
He
became
was very close to the Pshak, right? Very
yeah, he was
super
close to
close
Shach and the Stipler and I think others. He really became an address for dealing with difficult children, but not only difficult children, understanding kids, understanding people.
Mhm.
And so Rabbi Hoffman spent years teaching. He had a small group, and then eventually his ksavim were written. I believe some of it was published in his lifetime, but I'm not sure. But he has since passed away. He was nifter. And Rabbi Stein, who was one of his primary talmidim, has taken on the mantle to disseminate his work and
Right.
views. And he's been writing books. I think there's 2 or 3 in English published by Feldheim.
Yeah, I gave one out to all my rebbeim.
Oh, wow. Yes, the
yeah.
Kamayim one, right?
The
That's
Kamayim
just
one. Yeah.
one. That's just like one of them. You know,
Yeah, Rabbi Hoffman stuff. Yeah, an incredible life-changing ideas.
Okay, so Rabbi Stein also has gone around the country, and he recently was in the Torah Masorah Convention this past year,
Mhm.
where I met him. You might be picking up on the theme with me in Torah Masorah Convention. I spent a lot of time with him. We really bonded and became close, and so I was happy to reach out to him and ask him to join, which he said he is happy to do. So without further ado, it's an honor really to have Rabbi Stein all the way from Eretz Yisrael. Bruchim Abayim. Welcome, Rabbi Stein, to the Learning Curve podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope it's going to be the toilets.
I will say it is, and I want you to know you're the first guest of this season, and it makes sense because you are the first guest of American chinuch. Really, you are like the guest of American chinuch. No, you came for the Torah Masorah Convention as the speaker, and I believe you were just in America again to really spread the good word. So it makes sense that you're the first guest.
Yeah, Baruch
On
Hashem,
the
Baruch Hashem,
learning
for
curve.
Siyata Dishmaya.
How do you
I'll
speak
tell
such
you
a good
very shortly. My parents got married. They did Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. They had 8 children, and then
Oh,
my
wow.
father passed away when I was 7 years old. So that year,
Oh,
we came to America. We sat shiva in America by my grandfather, Rabbi Park from Borough Park, Shomer Emunah. And I learned in Tiferes Elimelech
wow.
in Brooklyn, in Borough Park. So I came into class.
Wow.
I didn't know a word in English, but I was for 1 year in America, in Tiferes Elimelech, so I needed to learn English. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was megalgal that I learned English when I was 7 years old. And I would say most of the years I didn't use the English, but finally in the last few years, because I got a lot of questions and I'm coming to speak, so it came back. And Baruch Hashem. And really, when I'm in America, it comes
Wow.
much
And I-
sharper, and I know much more words, but I hope now it's a bit.
Okay, you're digitally in America, so
Okay.
hopefully it'll work for you. And let me just ask you this: we talked a little about your background, but just help us understand how you got to Rabbi Hoffman and why you had such a good relationship, or how the relationship with him developed. That you're the person.
So also, we'll do it
disseminating
very
his Torah.
shortly. But Rav Hoffman was Adam Tzanua, of whoever didn't know about him, didn't know about him. It means also his neighbors, also his neighborhood. So the Gedolei Yisrael knew about him, a lot of Choshev people, but most of the people in the world didn't know nothing about him. You would sit with him next to
Can you stop right there? Can you stop right there? I want to put this out to you, Rabbi Stein, to you, Rabbi Schonfeld, and all of our listeners. If
Yeah.
you know about a secret person like this who's alive, can you let me know so I could go meet them? Why do I always find out afterwards? You know what I mean? What's the other Tanua that no one knows about?
I was living
Okay,
in Beit Vegan,
continue,
a
Rabbi
building
Stein.
next to him. When I was growing up, yeshiva bachar, 16, 17, 18-year-old, I was looking for kesher with Rabbanim Mechanchim for my own problems, my own things that I had in with learning, Ben Aliyah, whatever. And I heard a lot of
Right.
stories that about Rav Shach came to Rav Hoffman. A lot of the Gedolei Israel came to him. So I decided one day I'm going to go to Rav Shlomo Hoffman. I went in Shabbos to the shul. I asked somebody, how does he look? Even that he lived a building next to me, I didn't know how he looks. So he pointed it out to me. This is the old guy. You would say it's the old guy walking in the street, looking at birds. You wouldn't think this is Hakim the Yudai. And I asked, can I come to learn by Rebbe? So he said, yes. And when I came to him for 12 years, I didn't leave him. Every week I got an hour. It was gold. I recorded with the best quality because I knew it's something special. But he gave a feeling that he's not saying Chidushim. He's just learning Rambam, Goyen, Rebbe. So what do you want from me? I'm teaching you what Chazal says. So most of the people that did come into him didn't record. I was like one or two Talmidim that record, and I saved it. And I started to not to print it, to work on it, came at the handwriting, whatever. And Kadosh Baruch Hu was megalgal that it became a huge help to Talmidei Chachamim, Mechanchim, parents, Bachrim, all over the world.
Right.
Wow. What Svarim was he
Reb Shlomo
focused
Hoffman
on?
said, all my Chachma and Keras HaNefesh I learned from three Sfarim. He used to say like this, Chachma Bagoyim Talmim, but we don't need them because we have it in Chazal. But he used to say three Sfarim, Rambam, Goyen Mevilna, and Rabbi Yisrael Misalant. And it's amazing. He could have shown you two words in the Goyen Mevilna that in science, they used to write in it big books. The Mamish, it was Givaldic. So
Wow.
you used to show it says in the Torah, so we used to tell him, Rebbe, but we don't have your glasses. So he used to laugh, but he said, it's written, it's there.
And were they all the same? Were they aligned, those three, or were they like different
No, it's
aspects?
a Chutam Meshulash. It's the same Torah. Everybody speaks in his style, but Lemais, it's the same Mesoides.
Wow, that's amazing. I haven't yet seen in your Svarim explicit approach like that, where you say, these are the Makaros and the Rambam, they're interspersed, you know what I mean? But it's not like
It's
given
not
over
written like a
that.
sefer. It's more written
Reb
like
Shlomo
a,
Hoffman never
Right.
wrote nothing. And also when he spoke, he never spoke like a charismatic person giving a speech. He spoke like in the Hebrew, it's called Sichot with Reb Shlomo Hoffman. He was a schmoozer. He was talking. He didn't give a shir. Now, when we sat by him, he never said a shir,
Wow.
I'll give you all the Kamaim upon him straightly. I'll give you all the insiders of Kvisha Se'etz straightly. So I have 350 shirim that I recorded, and I was Meshuga. I listened for each shir probably between 20 and 50 times. And I started to bring everything to one Torah. So that's a big chidush, but Baruch Hashem, because Baruch Hu gave me a lot of siyata d'shmaya. So
But you never tried it out on him in his lifetime, right? Did you ever say, like, I think this is what you're trying to get at?
in his end of his life, I told him, Rebbe, I'm writing and I'm putting everything together. But he really didn't
wow.
have the patience to go over it because he was the.
No, but he knew, meaning, but you're condensing of his Yisoidos, that's the
So
correct
that's part of the
approach.
thing that he said, I'm not Mechadesh. My Yisoidus I got from my Rabbanim, from Chazal. So, like a Talmud reads a shir of the Rosh Hashiva about Breira, about Chazaka. So even if the Rosh Hashiva didn't go over it, he's happy that the Talmud did a good job. That was Reb Shlomo Hoffman.
Right,
Right.
right.
So Rabbi Stein, so let's, the shaila we're dealing with is, let's be in a bigger topic, and that is chutzpah today, right? But a challenging Talmud, a challenging student who's chutzpahdik. So Rabbi Garfield quoted from Rabbi Steinman that he once said in America, "Ein davar ka chutzpah, ein davar kazeh, chutzpah today." It's always something behind it. So if you could give us, I think a lot of the mechanachim are very familiar with kamayim. If I may, my yeshiva dinner this year, my entire drasha was about kamayim. But if you can give a little bit, of a summary, a sikum, is this eye-opening yesod from Shlomo Hoffman, and how we can use it to deal with that kid that to us isn't
So I'll tell you the
clicking.
truth. You're starting from the chutzpah, from the conflicts, from the complicated behaving from the Talmud. But let's start from the beginning of the Kamaim and then we'll get to the chutzpah. Let's give a minute. What's the Kamaim? The Kamaim is the side of the emotions. Every Rebbe, every parent that builds a good connection with his Talmud, with his children in the house. It gives the children, the Talmidim, the opportunity to grow up, to become good, to want to be good, to do nachas ruach to you. So the relationship that we built between our hearts, from the Rebbe and the Talmud, the parents and their children, that gives all the motivation, all the koyach haratzon to control himself, to change himself, to become better. So when we focus on this nekuda of the kamayim, so we'll get a very big successful in chinuch. The Maisa, it's a Rashi and Yavamas Reb Shlomo often used to bring it a lot. I'll just, like for a minute, let's explain the Rashi. It says in the Gemara like this: Kamayim apanim lapanim, kein leiva adam laadam, au b'divrei Torah ksiv. The pasuk goes on divrei Torah. So Rashi explains that what's the meaning that it goes in divrei Torah? Im rabbi masbir panim atalmid machkim, ve'im lav eina machkim. Reb Shlomo used to explain it. If the Rebbe is a masbir panim bepashas is what we call shmeichel, like a smile. He's a lovely person. The Talmud is going to be machkim, and im lav, the Talmud is not going to grow up. He's not going to learn in your class. So let's go a little bit deeply to explain. The personality of a Rebbe is supposed to be a masbir panim, and masbir panim is not only a shmeichel. It's the leiva adam laadam, the emotions that the Rebbe is happy to teach. He's happy that the child is learning, is growing up, is controlling himself, becoming more derech eretz, more ben Torah. And children, when they come into class, they feel the emotions. And they feel if the Rebbe likes to teach, loves their growing, or the Rebbe doesn't have patience. And the Rebbe comes in a day that the bank is behind his mind and he doesn't have patience, or he's fighting with someone as a neighbor, then he can't. They feel everything. So when the Rebbe is a masber panim Rebbe, the Talmud is going to be machkim, and im lav eina machkim. Now, Rabbi Shlomo often used to say it very strict. Rashi finishes, ve'im lav eina machkim, it means that if your Rebbe is going to be the Chazon Ish, Rav Elyashiv, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, you're not going to be machkim. This three Gdolei Yisrael, Am Yisrael needed them. They were the Mekayme Olam, but there were never Rebbe's in class. They didn't have patience to teach. To be a personality.
You would say this about, Rav Shlomo would say this about those
because
Gdolei
not
Yisrael?
every Gadol has the patience to teach. Rav Shach was a lovely person with a know to teach. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, but not every Gadol has his tafkid. So when you're a personality of a masbir panim, the children that come into your class, they're going to grow up. They'll be machkim, talmid chacham. But if you don't have that emotions, you don't have that personality, don't become a Rebbe. And it's not going to work. Im lav ein machkim. That's the kamayim. The kamayim is an emotional relationship between you.
Kamayim is a phrase where, just for our listeners, kamayim is like a word that represents, kamayim panim lapanim. It's a word that represents this yisoid, this idea that the way to reach Talmidim is by believing in them and caring for them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of insight to explain the kamayim.
No,
No?
not 100%. That's
Yes,
100%.
no.
It's a little bit. I'm more direct than Rabbi Stein. He's
No, you're opening it. That's what I spoke till now is the first level.
right.
What you said now about it, believe, that's already the oimek, to understand deeply what it means that I love you. It says in Rashi, if I love you, you love me. If I hate you, you hate me. That's kamayim apanim lapanim. What does it mean that the Rebbe loves the child? What does it mean that a person loves the person? So that's deeply the ahava of the Rebbe, of the parents, that I'm caring for you. And now, when you have complicated things and you're behaving in your yetzer hara, in your sheifas, whatever, I'm still there for caring for you. It doesn't go that a parent says to his child, listen, if you bring 70 in the test, so you're not going to get food this week. No, I'm your parents and I want you to learn good. And if there's problems, I'll help you to to learn how to become ready to test, learn better, whatever we'll do for you. So that's the oimek of the kamayim.
Rabbi Stein, is it fair to say it this way? I think this is something that will really clarify it for people. Where does kamayim take place? By the Rebbe or by the child? Meaning, it's not about how the child interprets it. That's not the kiddush. The kiddush is that kamayim is that the Rebbe's mindset is what dictates
we would
everything.
say like this. First of all, this question.
That's my understanding. It's in the Rebbe's head.
The mindset
avodah is on the
Chazal,
Rebbe.
we see that it's also from the Rebbe, also from the Talmud. There's a lot about your question. But Reb Shlomo often used to speak about the Rebbe. Why? Because we're adults and we can control ourselves. So when we get angry at a Talmud that is chutzpah, so we're losing him. Because the Maisa, they feel that we hate them. They feel that we are angry with them. There are emotions, the bad emotion goes from our heart to the heart. So they feel that we don't have patience for them. We want them out of school, whatever. Today, the language is very bad. In Eretz Yisrael, I'll kick you out. A child is a chutzpah. It's not supposed to be, I'll kick you out. I'll help you to speak straightly, like you want to be. You want to be a mechubad. You want to speak like adults. I'll help you to get there. But I'm not going to tell you I'll kick you out. What, you're a rotten tomato that we're throwing out of the class? Well, the language is never. But if the Rebbe controls himself and says to himself, yeah, I love him. The second he came to my class, till the end of the year, he's my child. And I'll care for him and I'll help him to grow up. Also with his chutzpahs, I'll help him. So the Talmud feels the emotions and he grows up and he starts to change his behaving. I just want to tell you a small story. Last week, I said a shiur somewhere in Eretz Yisrael, and somebody said to me, last year you spoke about the Kamayim. I need to tell you a story. There was the Mashgiach in the yeshiva. He wanted to kick out the buffer. The behaving was very bad, whatever. I don't want to give you all the details. And I felt that he's kicking out this buffer out of yeshiva. He's out of the derech. And I didn't know what to tell the Mashgiach because the Mashgiach was all red and angry. It was a very complicated situation. So I came to the Mashgiach. I said to him one word. Tell me, if the what was your son, you would also kick him out? And the Mashgiach put his answer back and he says, you're right. And he changed all the anaga. When your mindset, like you said, the mechalchim, we changed the kamayim upon him. So it's amazing.
Can I share a story? An amazing, amazing story that happened, I don't know, maybe this year or last year, but it reminded, when I heard the story, I said, oh, that's kamayim. When Rabbi Garfield started an email group of Menalim, and I'm going to change, obviously, some of the details to keep everyone comfortable. But so there was a Rebbe in the tri-state area, a Menal in the tri-state area, who emailed us the following issue. He said that he's more of a Haredi school, more of a Haredi yeshiva, and a boy moved from out of town, from a little bit of a broken family, and he moved in the middle of the school year. And the Menal decided to take him in the middle of the school year. And he gets a phone call. That class that the boy is coming into, it was an 8th grade class. That phone call, that class that the boy's coming into, they didn't want this kid, and he was going to ruin the whatever it was in the class, and they're going to beat him up. Tomorrow, they're going to beat him up. So he emailed the Oilam, what should he do? And there was a tumult back and forth. And what he did, and I was so nispal and so impressed, I called him and I said, Rabbi so-and-so, you have to tell me the whole story. The next morning after breakfast, he went over to the leader of the 8th grade, and he said, come into my office. He came to his office and he said, Yankel, we have a new boy in your yeshiva, right? He said, yes. He said, this class yeshiva had 3 parallel 8th grades. He said, why did I put him in your class? There's 3 other 8th grades. There's 2 other 8th grades. He said, no. Why? Because your class are leaders, and your class has you in it. And you're a leader of the yeshiva. You lead the class, you lead everyone. And I know that I can trust you to make sure that nothing happens to this boy. I'm putting you in charge of his well-being. And he said, this boy, Yanka, looked at him and his eyes like popped. Like, really? You trust me? I'm on it. I got it. And he said there was nothing happened to this kid. Because he took a boy that he could have thrown out, and maybe even, like, as we said, should have thrown out, threatened to beat up a kid. And he looked at him and said, oh, so you're a leader. I'm going to believe in you, right? Amazing.
That's
I heard
the
the story.
deeply
Amazing.
part of the Kamaim, like the believe in the Kodesh, to give them the power to become the leaders, like you say. I just want to tell you something. Shem Hoffman used to say that it works also without words. If I feel that I believe in this Yanko, whatever, it's going to work. He's going to feel it. But the words also help, for sure. For sure.
I wonder about the Haggadah, where we have the 4 banim. I'm sure you've been asked this, but one of the banim is a Russia, right? And the approach seems to be inconsistent with Kamayim. The way we handle a Russia is by hika ashena, right? We hit him in the teeth, whatever that means. But it doesn't seem to be like a Kamayim approach to that Russia.
Asking a good question, but let's go back to Rabbi Arya's question about the chutzpah, and then I'll ask you about the Russia. The Kamayim, people love the Kamayim. They're crazy about the Kamayim. It's really, I'm teaching it all over America. I come every month, every community, the Mechalchim, the Rabbanim, whatever. But Kamayim doesn't mean only love. Like today, the Aleph Welt, the progressivim in the world, that they just understand them, give him candies, and whatever. Kamayim is something in the emotions that I'm curing for you. Now, part of chinuch is the build, is their cheder, is behaving, is learning, whatever. So when a bachar is a chutzpah, we'll call him and we'll give him a punishment. Why? Because we want him to grow up. When he's going to be a husband to his wife, he's not going to talk like this. To his neighbors, he's not going to talk. So we are helping you, the kamayim, inside our art, we are helping you to grow up a really good human being in the world. So Kamayim doesn't mean not to give punishment. Kamayim means that I'm caring for you, and then the punishment works. So when we have chutzpah, we'll teach you. We'll do what Aviseinu used to teach us, derech eretz, kadmon Torah, or whatever. There's punishments, there's the talking, whatever. There's all kind of ways of punishment. But I just say, when I speak to mechanchim, when the punishment comes from Kamayim, it works. He's going to come and say thank you because he feels that you're caring for him. When punishment doesn't work, when he feels that you're angry, sometimes the Rosh Yeshiva could tell the Bachram, you're ruining my name of Yeshiva. Get kicked out from here. So that's not a Kamayim sentence. It's not a Kamayim feeling because you're not caring for me. You're caring for your Yeshiva. Now, there is deeply explaining why caring for Yeshiva is also caring for him. But I'm saying, when we give punishments, the feeling's supposed to be, I'm caring for you, and that's why I'm here to give you punishment. Because when you're young, you don't know how to block yourself, and you go after bad friends, you do bad things, and I'm to help you to be mechonach. And it's for your good. You want to be successful in life, to be a good husband, a good parent, or whatever, in business, and whatever. So that's the idea of the Kamayim al chutzpah. So when we're speaking about Russia, the same thing. Kamayim doesn't say, no, let's be nice. Yeah, you're a good person. Yeah, you decide to kill today someone. Okay, we understand you. Something bothered you. You didn't eat breakfast. Your wife got you angry. That's no. Akeshinov, we want to bring you to a normal life. You want to be a tzaddik. So if we'll come and it was the MS, we'll put him in a good mirror. You are supposed to be a tzaddik. Today in your situation is a bad situation. If it comes from a kamayim, it's going to work.
Can I share a story? And I want you to tell me whether I did the right thing or not, because it happened in camp. And
Wait, whoa, you have a camp? It's been 40 minutes. We didn't hear about the camp.
I'm not the Rebbe of the Kamayim. We were all Kamayim guys. Everybody that comes, well, 1 second. Everybody that comes into chinuch is a Kamayim Rebbe, mitzad atzmai.
Yeah,
so I could tell you my opinion, but your opinion is also okay.
Good. So here's a Maisa. A counselor sent a boy to me at 1 o'clock in the morning because he was keeping the whole bunk up. He was being a chutzpahdik in the bunk. I'm the director of the camp. I'm the head counselor. Go to Rabbi Schonfeld. He comes to my bungalow. This is a Friday night. And going to my bungalow at 1 o'clock in the morning is nishkin gute zach, right? So I was pretty tough with him. Had this unacceptable in camp. And there's a way to, and then I said to him, Yankel, are you hungry? It's 1 in the morning. He said, yes. And I gave him a cinnamon bun. My wife makes cinnamon buns. I gave him a cinnamon bun. He went back to his bunk. The counselor came to me the next morning, almost crying. He said, Rabbi Schonfeld, you just destroyed my whole bunk. Here's a kid that was misbehaving. So I got him in trouble. I kicked him out. I sent it to the head counselor. He comes back in with a cinnamon Danish. What kind of lesson is that to my bunk? This kid was a bentire, this counselor. Good guy. He was so upset that I ruined his bunk. And in me, this is before I knew it was called Kamayim.
Rabbi, it happens sometimes in the house. The husband, the father gives us cinnamon, and the mother says, you're ruining my chinuch. But I want to tell you a few things about it. The first thing is there's a Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's very strict with punishments. Even the best bacher in yeshiva, when he comes late, the shachar kicks him out for the day. Now, he calls the parents in the first day, in the first months, whatever, and he tells them like this. My chinuch is very strict. But I want to tell you something. The second I kick out the bacher from yeshiva, I want you, parents, to get him into the house and buy him a pizza. Give him a snack. Do to him schnitzel. So we are working together, the Rosh Yeshiva and the parents. Now, your story, what's the problem? Because you're doing a Kamayim Maisa, for sure. You're putting him in the place. You're strict with him. You're not supposed at 1 o'clock to bother everybody. It's not whatever. But you're giving him a cinnamon to give him the motivation, whatever you felt in that minute. But the problem that the counselor is not in the same mode of you. And we need to work together. So if the Rosh Yeshiva call the parents and they work together, it works. In Kamayim, sometimes we work with a system and the other staff, the other teacher, the parents, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't.
Or the
we're
parent,
not in the
big
same
challenge.
mode. So that's a problem because soif kol soif, we could do things, but if the effect is going to be that the mother is going to be angry or the other staff is going to be angry, it's a problem. Because we need to work together and a team that everybody's caring for is good. Now, if the council doesn't think like you, so we need to set up the things together that he's going to understand your ways that you're working. And if it's going to go, it's going to go. If not, you need to be machnia, your kamayim to the counselor, because we need to be everybody together in the same team.
Fair, good. So we started out with a shaila, Rabbi Garfield. Maybe we want to reread the shaila to Rabbi Stein. So now that we're in it, we can present to you what a parent sent us, their struggle with their child. So now let's go back, try to get to the issue.
My third grade son is struggling. He was recently suspended for being chutzpahdik in class to the Rebbe. I want him to understand that this is not an acceptable way to speak to his Rebbe, but I also don't want to just punish him because that often seems to backfire. How do I get the message across that this is a very serious issue, but at the same time, maintain a good relationship?
So there's a lot more to talk about it. I'll tell you a few things. First of all, Rabbi Shlomo Hoffman used to say, from his rabbanim in Slobodka, Reb Chatzkel Sar and Reb Meir Chodosh. You know, Reb Aryeh, it's a funny story. Reb Meir Chodosh was thinking that Reb Shlomo Hoffman went with his friend to Kolnoa. I don't know how you say it in English. That place was a big movie. There's 400 people sitting together. The Bachim Yeshiva cheder not allowed to go, and Reb Meir Chodosh thought that Reb Shlomo Hoffman went there. The Meister Reb Shlomo Hoffman Alzabacher didn't go. But he said to us, when our rabbanim were upset about our behavior in the Yerushalayim, about chutzpah, whatever, they never said to us like a sentence, you're talking bad, you're talking chutzpah. They used to say like this, in our yeshiva, we don't speak like this. It's a different sentence. What's the idea of this sentence? You're not attacking the bacher, you're a chutzpahyak. You're teaching him how to become better.
Right.
I would say it in one word, it's covered. We could get to the goal of bringing him to speak but they're cherets and not chutzpah. But when we'll come to him and we'll say to him, listen, Yankel, you're speaking chutzpahyak, and no one in school speaks like this. What's his feeling that moment that you're against him? Rebbe is aiding me. Rebbe is against me. I even didn't speak chutzpah. If Rebbe would know if what's chutzpah by me, that was even not chutzpah. Whatever they sing in their imagination, whatever. We need to find a way how to bring him to understand our things that we need to teach them, we want to teach them, but not attacking him. Like Yanko, no one in school talks like this. So he says, yes, Rabbi, there's a lot of children. So Yanko, I want to tell you something. First of all, in our school, whoever talks like this gets a punishment, and I'm going to punish you. But I want you to behave good and start talking good. I want to ask you a question, Yanko. When you would be 35, you would be a Rebbe in yeshiva, and the Bacher would speak, like you say, the same words you said. How would you feel that the Talmud would speak to you like this? And then what he does, he takes off his eyes down and he says, Rebbe, you're right. So we need to find the direction. We are going to be mechanchim. We are not going to be like a lovely, yeah, you're allowed to speak. We understand why you're speaking. No, we understand why you're speaking. It's right. His parents are getting divorced or something is getting very complicated in his emotions. We understand you, but still, even if your parents are getting divorced and something is bothering you and we understand you, why you're chutzpahing over here in school, no one would speak like this. And you're not going to go tomorrow to the trip because you can't control yourself when we want you to control yourself.
Can I tell you a nusach and you'll tell me whether this is fair? I heard this once from a psychologist. The difference between guilt and shame, and making a boy feel or girl feel guilty is very healthy. And making a boy or girl feel shamed is very dangerous. And the nusach was, guilty, to feel guilt means I made a mistake. To feel shame is I am a mistake.
I'll tell you, I don't know the English so good, what's guilt and what's shame, but I'll tell you, Reb Shlomo Hoffman didn't give permission also not to give a child a feeling of guilt. That's very bad. Because
Really?
So it's shame. When he says guilt, I think Reb Shlomo Hoffman means shame.
There's a book of Secrets of the Soul about dealing with. So there's a lot of chapters over there about this feeling. Even if the child comes to his mother, Erev Shabbos, 30 minutes before Shabbos, and spills all the soup on the floor, we shouldn't give him not guilt and not shame. You didn't control yourself. You did a bad thing. We'll help you to control yourself. Never to step on him, to give him a bad feeling. Because the mice, if it's one time, it's okay. But if it's all the time, like there are childs, they have a bad feeling about themselves. They feel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu born Gehenim for me. My behaving is very bad. Why? What do you do? Chal Shabbos? No. So what do you do? But their feelings are very bad. We need to bring them up. It was to cover it was some malchus. Like the story you said before, you're a leader. To bring them the emotions, the good emotions. We shouldn't give them not guilt and not shame. But maybe
I don't want to be negative about anyone or any mechanchim, but I definitely think that guilt is a tool that's used in
so
many
what's
of our
guilt?
yeshivas.
Maybe explain me what's guilt.
Guilt? I looked up the definitions. I'll tell you. Busha, shame is busha, a feeling of humiliation or disgrace, how people see you. It's about the self being dishonored. Guilt, the Hebrew word is ashama, a feeling of responsibility or remorse. So busha and
If you want,
ashama.
we could talk
Ashma.
about it a lot. Both of them they're not good tools for chinuch. B'shum panim v'ofen.
Rabbi Schonfeld, aren't those common in our certainly
Every day.
So that's where
Every
we're
day.
coming to
Okay,
teach
that's
the
even more.
Kamaim, and we'll get to the goal. We'll explain, the belief, the understand this kaichas. We'll help the mechalchim to come with the different classes.
If I
But isn't
may,
that tshuva? Isn't that one of the or isn't true in this isn't feeling guilty and feeling one of the chalakim that a person needs in order to be chayzer b'tshuva?
There's a lot
in
what
the-
to
in the
talk
big
about.
picture?
Rabbeinu Yoina, Shara, Tshuva, Charot, Yovin, Levavo, V'Rav, V'Marot.
Right.
There's a lot what to talk. It's not a regular achas, but lemaisa, even if you're right, it's not for our doris. So Shlomo Hoffman used to say, the doris achronim, the bachim are very sensitive for love and for good emotion. Not only bachim, also husbands and also wives. So we need to work with the good emotion, now it's bad emotions.
if I may throw out, just because this is a topic of experience for me, I'll leave it at that. I think an area where a lot of guilt and shame is used is coming on time to Shachris. Because a lot of teenagers and young adults struggle with that, and adults, but in yeshiva, you struggle with it. And kids miss and kids come late. And the tools of intervention that are often used, knas, a guilt, a shmooze about what kind of yid are you? And I think that is so destructive to the way kids think of themselves.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying for grills about sneers. You could tell you problem with sneers.
Yeah.
Your
yes,
mom is a Shem Yirachem, and you could tell
Same
I
thing.
understand you. Everybody today
Yeah.
in styles the problem with sneers, but I hope you'll have the opportunity to become a
Yeah.
tzaddikus, whatever. It's a different language, and it makes all the motivations. I want to tell you a story from Shlomo Hoffman. His wife was a yekesha, like
Oh, wow.
everything needs to be according to the dat. So Shlomo Hoffman's child was very mufra. I always say very active energy when he was in school, and it made problems. And
Yeah.
the teacher kicked him out from class.
Hyperactive.
He came home. So Shlomo Hoffman's wife started to scream, "How are you behaving? What's it be with you?" So Shlomo Hoffman, next to his wife, says to his wife, "Rafi, my son, come over here. Take my tuda." How you say tuda? I want to show you when I was a child. Shlomo Hoffman. Report card.
Oh,
Yeah, when I
report
was a
card,
child,
maybe.
I want to
Yeah.
show you my tziyun in behaving. I got 4. That was the last behaving. So you could be like, "Daddy, today you're behaving bad. It's okay. Take your time." You understand? It's the same story with the
Wow.
cinnamon cake,
Wow.
but the staff in the school will be angry that the class. Yeah.
Has to
And
know
he told
about it.
us, if the child
Right.
is throwing stones in Shabbos, muktzah, 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 tell this child, I understand you. When I was young, I also did things. Okay. So I think the time was passing so kamayim,
Yeah.
like fast.
The challenge is getting everyone, as you said, on board. Because as a Rebbe, you're a Kamayim Dika Rebbe, but if the Manal is a certain toughness, strictness, or if the parents are different, then as a Rebbe, you feel like all of a sudden everyone looks at you and said, "Yeah, you're the lovey-dovey hippie guy that doesn't know how to be mechanic." There's so many people involved in a child's life that really have to row the boat in the same direction. It's just very challenging. I'm
Okay.
not.
Are there
no,
any Gedolei Yisrael, Rabbi Stein, that have come out, besides Rabbi Hoffman,
Rabbi Leib.
yeah, in a way that have said, this dar is different. We should not use guilt. I'm waiting for someone to say that explicitly.
Oh, I'll find it. You're giving me homework. Reb Gershon Edelstein was only love. Moshe Eliyash today is amazing, amazing. But Moshe Eliyash is a god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder,
Yeah,
I
about that.
found that Gedolim, well, and I know American Gedolim. I don't have as much experience with Eretz Yisrael, but one-on-one, it's a machaya and they're very understanding and soft. But when it comes to the public speeches and really like setting policy, I don't see an embracing of a change as much. A little bit, but not as much.
I want to
And
tell
that's
you in
where
one sentence.
I think
We're
it would go a
speaking
long
about
way.
guilt, shame, and toughness. Toughness is okay when it's from Kamaim. Guilt and shame is not okay, but Shum Fani Voifen. So the word Gedolei Israel, they were
Right.
very strict, very strong. For things that we would never give attention in class, they went like, don't move your chair,
Right.
sit down all the time. Okay. But if there is Kamaim, it works. because the child feels that he wants my good.
Yep.
I had a story, a child that his parent was divorced. I knew him from when he was 10 years old. I was helping him all the days that he grew up in yeshiva. He calls me the first day in yeshiva, my Rebbe is achzari. I always say achzari in English. No, that's
Not good.
okay.
An achzar is not stubborn. No, like
Yeah,
a
very
obnoxious,
mean.
mean,
A
very
mean
mean.
Rebbe. Why? Why?
Cruel,
We have
cruel,
we have 2 hours
cruel.
of a session of a teaching, and he doesn't let us to get out for bathroom. And we're pointing hands, and we're mamish suffering. We need to go to the bathroom, and he's mean. He doesn't let us. And I was standing over there. In my heart, I also felt that the Rebbe is mean. Okay. After a month or 2 months, he calls me back. She tells me this is the best Rebbe in my life. No one needs bathroom. We get prepared before. It's okay. He taught us that we could grow up. We could control ourselves. We never felt that we could get to this goal. So mean doesn't mean opposite of kamayim. But guilt and shame means the opposite of kamayim. We're not allowed to do it. It's guilt. So, Rabbi Achmiel, if you find a
Thank
story
you, Rabbi
before
Stein.
200 years that the Chassam Sofer said, Zoik Moa. Zoik
No,
Moa.
I want someone today. I don't want 200 years. You know why? Because everyone dismisses that. If I say these things over, people say,
I'm just giving you
"Ah,
homework.
yeah."
Chassam Sofer said, Zoik Moa Batalmidim. Be strong, be strict. But he never said make them guilt and make them ashamed. So find me a gadol from 100 years before that said that make them guilt, give them a bad feeling. I want to see such a place. Find me one gadol. It's not Thursday.
Thank you, Rabbi Stein. We appreciate what you did for us and all of our listeners, and also the continual work you do of coming and teaching and writing.
Okay,
Keep up
thank
the
you
great
for the
work.
big schus.
So that was absolutely wonderful. Really, a special yid, Rameir
Yeah.
Stein. And I think it's a topic that and a sugya that resonates with a lot of parents and mechanchim today, as we're trying to reach kids that are sometimes more difficult to reach than others. And I love the fact that Rabbi Stein did not just say, no, lovey-dovey. No, we're not here to just throw away chinuch, chas v'shalom, adarabba. We're here to do the opposite. We're here to try to help that kid through chinuch. I love this answer about the Russia. This was a very,
First of all, as a Rebbe, I'm very kamayim dik, as I'm very into this. I always was. But I didn't let kids go to the bathroom when I was a Rebbe during
Really?
class. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. I said, go before. It's because I didn't want them to miss, and I know bathroom means break. I said, if you need a break, you can ask for a break. Just call it a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a speaker at the yeshiva dinner this year at our yeshiva, Shlomo Fari, chashva speaker, and he said
Mhm.
he thought this was our mantra of yeshiva. It was very nice, but he said la'olam yikarev adam biyamin with a small daichif, right?
Mhm.
He said it's a la'olam, it's together always. It's la'olam, you have to always do both.
Right. Constant balance. So my point is just to say, like,
Yeah.
it's such an uphill battle sometimes with this.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people listening to this podcast already know about it and they're supportive. But those who aren't, do they really hear that this is Das Gedolah Torah? I actually ask people listening, and this will segue into our closing and our email address. Let us know. Argue with us. Come on the air. Tell us, why is this not the Mahalach?
Yeah.
What is the Messiah for the other Mahalach? And how do we get this to become normative? Because it really needs to be.
Right.
Okay, wonderful. Well, this is a great first episode. It's so great to be back with you, Rabbi Schonfeld. And I just want to give out our email address, which is thelearningcurve@mishpacha.com. We always look forward to hearing from our listeners. Any comments you want to weigh in on the spelling bee, or what was the other issue we discussed?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT or
This
spelling
is
bee.
a loaded episode. This was great.
Yeah, there's a lot to work with here.
All right.
So feel free to let us know your thoughts. And we look forward to continuing with The Learning Curve.
Take care.